WP Engine is a managed WordPress hosting company, a platform really, where we offer hosting to anyone from someone with a single site to multiple sites, customers who want to offer their services and host sites for clients. We're very client-oriented and and service-oriented in that manner. We host a lot of big names: AMD, Pabst, HTC, Discovery Networks. Just quite a few. We've been doing it for 4 years now. As was said, we're based out of Austin. We have over 130 WordPress experts on staff, and we're growing every day. I started working at WP Engine almost 3 years ago, and I was employee number 6. As I said, we have over 130 experts on staff now, so our growth has just been skyrocketing. And we've got data centers around the globe to kind of provide for anybody who possibly has sites wherever they need to be served from. We very strongly believe in our core values. This is something that we live. We have posters up on the wall that everyone signed that talk about our values. We aspire to lead. We're committed to give back. We're hiring right now 2 core developers. If anyone is interested in that, I'll give you a way to contact me after this. Really, our team does everything they can to do the right thing to improve the product and themselves. We work for our customers, and we really are trying to build a company that will last the test of time. Just a few fun little pictures of our team here. Just kind of give you an idea of the size and scale. That was just taken maybe back in November, and we've continued to grow even then. So what we do, as I said before, we offer enterprise WordPress solutions, and it's anywhere from a single site, personal, professional. We offer fairly robust data transfer, things like that. So no matter how large or small your site is, there is a plan for you. As I said, we offer data centers in all across the United States. We have one in the United Kingdom and one in Japan. We're actually spinning up several other data centers, or hosts in several other data centers across the world, and hopefully it'll allow us to have even better coverage for our customers. Now, to give you an idea of the scale and size, we have clients all across the world, and as you can see here, really there's quite a few, anywhere from Hawaii to Kazakhstan to Australia, New Zealand. Really a lot of amazing people building a lot of amazing sites all around the world using our service and our platform. Well, how do we do it? We have 4 pillars on our platform that we like to tout: security, speed, scale, and support. Security, we actually pride ourselves on our security. I'm the head of the security response. Ever run into a hacked site, we try to make sure that you never even have to deal with a hacked site, but if you do run into a hacked site, I head up the response team that takes care of your site. We'll clean it for you. We'll make sure that your site is back in running condition and will not be hacked again. Speed, we pride ourselves on our speed. We do everything we can to optimize the stack and the platform to make sure that your site is extremely fast. Scale, again, just like the speed, we do everything we can to make sure that just because you got hosted on the front page of Reddit, we have customers who have been mentioned on Dr. Phil and CNN and Oprah, and their sites stand up. They give us a warning to let us know that they're going to be on one of those shows, and every time we're like, okay, thanks for the heads up, and we don't have to do anything really to prepare the customer, and also support. Those 130 WordPress experts, those are people in our support ranks. We're hiring and training new people all the time to kind of bring them up to speed and make them the best that they can be and give the best service that they can. Some of our features, we do easy deployments. Our EverCache technology is actually our caching. We have one-click staging, which I'm going to show you. We make it really easy to copy installs. We provide daily Git-based backups as well as a secondary backup system. We allow you to administer your site through Git, and we have a hack-free guarantee and also 24/7 support. So, why WP Engine? I think the clients will kind of, words from our clients will kind of help speak to that. From our customer at AMD, during a 2-month period, we experienced a 5x increase in 2 of our key metrics, site traffic and downloads, with flawless site performance. Max CDN, who are actually also one of our partners, we love WP Engine. As a CDN provider, we're selling web performance, uptime, and scalability. The last thing we need is a slow or even down website, so our engineers can focus on our core systems and do not have to deal with this one-off web server. So we provide their blog and some of their other components to what they do, and we let them worry about hosting CDNs, and we worry about the WordPress side of things. And that's really what it is. We're the people who you pay to worry about your WordPress site, to help you make sure that it stays up, available, and yeah, that's basically it. If you want to contact me, I'm on Twitter at Boogah, B-O-O-G-A-H. Also, I can be reached at Cosper, C-O-S-P-E-R, at WPEngine.com. So if you want to drop me an email, please feel free. Okay, let's get into a live demo. Switch over to the browser here. Make it a little larger for you to see. How's everyone doing? All right, so
Good.
the WP Engine portal, our user portal, this is a list of all of my personal sites. One of the benefits of working at WP Engine is you get free hosting, and I host quite a few sites. Now, let's scroll down and take a look at...
You have extra Epsom.
You guys able to see this okay?
Yes.
Yes, we're good.
Perfect. Okay, we'll go to the installs.
I'm always looking for your Epsons.
There we go. Okay. Now, one of the nice things is, as I mentioned before, we do have backup points that you can take. We take nightly backups. We also take backups before you do a deploy, from staging, from other, say you do a Git deploy, we will actually take a checkpoint of your site from before you do the Git deploy. So just in case the Git deploy manages to hose everything, you can actually go back and roll back to how your site was right before that checkpoint. It's really helpful. It's really useful. It makes it really easy to kind of deploy changes and not really sweat it. We also offer a really easy way to add redirect rules. So if I wanted to add like a 301 redirect, and I can actually set it up to just work on particular domains, subdomains, things like that on my site, which is also very nice and helpful. We offer direct access to the error logs. Right now, the error logs are empty because this is a site that I set up, and hopefully your error logs will be empty too. But if there is an error that does happen, we do offer a way for you to go ahead and troubleshoot by looking at the error logs as they come in, so you can kind of get an idea of what is happening with your site, what is erroring out, what you can do to fix the errors, hopefully. And our support is normally very happy to help in those cases. Sometimes we can kind of, we may not necessarily be able to say, oh, you just need to do this, here's some code, fix it. But we can point you in the right direction, we can guide you. And in some cases, we can even provide you with a little bit of code to help you out. We also offer Git push. It's just as simple as giving a username, giving us your SSH public key, and it'll actually give you access. And again, we have instructions in the sidebar here that make it really easy to set up Git push should you want to use it. There's a secret thing I can't show off. That's coming fairly soon, but when it comes out, you guys will definitely know about it. There is an easy way to buy an SSL certificate, so if you haven't purchased one either at your previous host or whatnot, we make it just a couple clicks. I don't have any domains configured yet, so that's not going to work. But really just a few forms, and it'll help you set up SSL. We offer really easy ways, say our object caching is getting in the way, and sometimes that does happen depending on the plugin that you use, things like that. You can enable and disable that. You can also clear caching as well directly from the portal, which is super nice. You don't have to log into your WordPress admin interface to do that. Let's actually go ahead and look at the admin interface. There's a couple cool things I want to show you. So we have this, our functionality plugin. When you click on the WP Engine logo, you get taken to this page. As you can see, you can kind of turn on the object and transient caching here as well. If you have a CDN, you can turn it on and off if there's something interfering there. You can pick who sees these WP Engine quick links across the top. If you don't want anyone to see them, that's fine. You can uncheck everything and save that out. We even allow you access to your access and error logs from the WP Engine admin interface, so you can take a look at that. If you feel like your site's running slow and you see that you're getting a lot of hits, you actually want to take a look at the access logs. We allow you to do that and make it pretty easy to look that over. There's also just some kind of advanced configuration stuff, some regular expression replacements. If you want to replace any HTML, we allow an easy way to do that and run it in a way that won't really mess with output or caching or things like that. This is okay. The staging interface is really neat. I've already taken a staging copy, but you can copy from both your live environment to staging. You can copy back from staging to live. When I made this copy of staging earlier, we'll take a look at the site. Now, it's just a basic WordPress site. I have a post that I would like to edit and put into place, though. I was doing it on staging just to show you just how well the copy staging to live works. So say I publish the post. We'll view the... Okay, that's fine. Now I want to add that to my site here. Go back into the dashboard, WP Engine, into staging. All I have to do is click copy from staging to live. It asks me, do I want to, it says, we'll only copy files unless you tell us otherwise. But since I made a change to a post, that happens in the database. So I can click on, I can actually select the tables I want to move, but just for time, let's go ahead and select move all tables. I can even get an email when the copy is done. So let's hit submit there. It begins the deploy for me. Also make sure that all the permissions are cool and that any instances of the staging or hurricane.staging.wpengine.com URL are changed back to what they need to be. Takes a second to get the permissions all fixed up and everything else. Okay. There we go. Deploy completed. So now I can click close. Let's go visit the site. Do a refresh. That did not work as it was supposed to. Live demos rarely work the way you want them to.
Exactly. Live demos, love them.
Yeah. Okay. Let us. Oh. I know what I might have forgotten to do. There we go. The post has been copied. It's sitting on the main page. So basically, I made these changes in staging. You can do anything from changing your theme, your plugins, your widgets, anything like that, and then copy that stuff over back from staging to live, so you don't have to make any cowboy coding live tweaks on your environment. You hit a couple buttons, and then it's deployed live. It's pretty cool, and we're really, really happy with, and customers are too, with the way that it allows people to edit their sites and kind of make sure that they don't completely mess up their sites when they're actually making those changes like that. That looks like my time. So do we have any time for questions at all, or?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take some questions from people.
Anybody?
Anyone have questions?
Joe does.
Joe has a question over here. Joe Manna.
Can you re-explain how the regex filtering works in the event section? Because I don't know what that does.
Can you re-explain how the regex filter in the advanced section works?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Here, let me.
Basically, a practical situation.
What are you asking?
A practical situation.
A practical situation from when you might use that?
Okay. Actually, instead of switching back over, let me just go ahead and tell you. Basically, what the nice thing about the regex the regex area in the advanced area is that you can use it to change HTML on your site. Say you, even though you're using us for CDN, you have something where you're using, say, a secondary CDN for particular JavaScript, things like that, and you'd only like to replace those URLs without interfering with the URLs that we're using. So you can actually use regular expressions in there to search for a particular domain, string of text, whatever, and replace it like on the fly with the secondary domain string of text. Does that make a little more sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Joe says yeah. All right. Any other questions? No?
You guys don't have to be shy, really.
We got him here. We were able to get it all hooked up. Let's not waste it. Hey.
I missed the beginning, maybe this was covered, but my impression is this is more like WordPress.com hosting where it's multi-site and they do all the WordPress upgrades. Is that correct?
Okay, the question is, this looks like more like a WordPress.com situation where you guys are all multi-site and you handle all of the upgrades for everyone. Is that correct?
Okay, we handle upgrades on core, and everything is not multi-site. We actually have individual sites. And they're individual standalone installs, as well as we do offer multi-site installs and multi-site support and things like that. But you install the plugins, unlike WordPress.com. You can install themes. You can make any tweaks to themes, plugins, widgets that you see fit. We do have a disallowed plugins list that keeps a few bad actors off of our systems and keeps your sites running quickly. But outside of that, this is much like any other hosting. You can bring in whatever you would like to and run it on our service as long as it is WordPress. And really, honestly, the handful of plugins that we've disallowed, we have alternatives that we've listed for those as well. But the nice thing about us is that we offer kind of the scalability of WordPress.com. You don't hear about a WordPress.com blog going down when someone links to it. We do our very best to make sure that none of our sites go down when you link to them from a popular news source, from even just sending links out to a mailing list. We want to make sure, especially if it's a large mailing list, we want to make sure that anybody can get to your site at any time.
I have a follow-up question then.
Okay.
We made use of a lot of heavily customized frameworks and themes and some custom theme development. So is it possible to opt out of core upgrades until we have verified that everything that's been our customization will work?
So the question is, they have a lot of custom theme development. Is it possible to upgrade to opt out? Thank you. Opt out of the core updates so that they have time to test to make sure that their custom themes will be compatible.
Of course. And that's actually one of the reasons that we don't upgrade plugins automatically, is because we also know that there can be some major sweeping changes in plugins. That's something we've discussed, is offering a way to auto-upgrade plugins, but we're kind of, our customers really have said that that's something that they don't really want. But yeah, we do offer a way to opt out of any upgrades that are needed. We do tend to, like, say, so 3.9's out, say 3.9.2 comes out tomorrow and it's a security release, we will make sure that if your site is on 3.9, that you get 3.9, 3.9.1, that you get upgraded to 3.9.2 as soon as possible. There are normally not any concerns about how like any changes between like a minor point release like that. That is really the only situation, but we can allow you a way to opt out of that as well. But again, that comes with the whole warning that that's the security of your site at risk.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Did I lose you guys?
Are you there?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I think you missed my last question. We have a question, and that is, how would you get the most out of your WP Engine hosting? Are you here? Can you hear me?
I'm still here. It seems like we're getting kind of a few dropouts, but I heard the question.
He's talking.
Are you guys not hearing me?
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Perfect. So really the best way to get the most out of WP Engine hosting, we encourage anybody from an upstart to kind of a more established site to come and host with us. However, really the best way to get the most out of hosting is to bring an established site that's starting to kind of pick up traffic, get more popular, pick up steam. We see a lot of people who have hosted with kind of some of the smaller shared hosts and even some of the larger shared hosts that basically servers and their service can't handle the resources. So kind of the best way to get the most out of our service is to bring a site to us that is kind of on the upswing, that is getting more and more traffic. Bring a site that is growing and continues to grow. Because we will, like, even if you don't have that sort of site today, I'm sure that especially if you're determined, you will, and we'll still be there when you do.
One more question.
Does he limit the number of sites on a server?
Do you limit the number of sites on a server?
Yes, we do. It depends. It depends on the size of the plan, but we do limit the number of sites on a server. And furthermore, if you do have a large enough plan, actually have like a server just to one particular site. If you do have a site that large that requires just being on its own server.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you so much, Jason, for being with us and for answering our questions and giving us a demo. We really appreciate it.
You're all very welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. All right, you're next. All right, so let's go ahead and do some introductions. Actually, we've got plugin review next, I think. Plugin review is next.
Okay.
Yep.
Are we switching monitors?
Yep, we're gonna switch over. So here we go. Technical change here. All right, so while we're getting everything switched up and getting everything up, let's just do some really quick introductions. Just go around, and we've got quite a big group, so let's just say our name and who we work for or with or what you're doing. Let's just say your name for right now, your name and your company. So my name is Carol Stambaugh, and I am co-owner of Free Up Web Studio.
Lori Pasolka, I am solopreneur for graphic design, and my company name is Creative Harvest.
Chris Wasowski, day job's a GoDaddy. My job is WordPress plugins and open source development.
Kurt Payne, day and night job are GoDaddy.
Hermatitis, Freeze Advantage, my startup.
Awesome. Mark Rudder Marketing.
Chris Simon, Hopper Studios.
Steve Baker, Ticketmaster.
Donica Star, Zecco. My name's Lori Moonshine. I have a Dolly blog.
Awesome. Love those two.
Glenn Luchek has a different Dolly blog.
Awesome. And can I ask how old you are?
12.
I think the 12-year-old needs applause for doing WordPress. All right. We'll get the presenter in a sec. Joe?
Joe Manna, I work at Infusionsoft. I'm a WordPress user and fan.
Cool. Greg?
Hi, I'm Greg Taylor. I work at Marketing Press and I'm an anchor company here at Canada. Usually find me sitting right here. I also mentor here. Twice a month on every, I think the second, the first and third Thursday. On the second.
I think you're opposite of me.
Yeah.
You're opposite of me.
Fort Adam Pride, GoDaddy.
Chris Miller, I work writer with
US Classics.
Amir Adib. I'm just trying to learn WordPress as a hobby.
Awesome.
Gail Trim, ToyBoxEnterprises.com.
Sandy Masters, PrepAdamy.com.
Claire Rhodes, I'm a counselor, psychologist, and animal rescue volunteer.
Jeremy Sapsy, and together half of Carol's co-owner of Great Post.
George Lerner, I'm currently looking for work with WordPress development and security.
Anthony San Martino, I work at GoDaddy, manage WordPress.
David, do you guys, Kevin, are you guys in?
David's in.
David's in.
Yeah, I am David. I'll introduce myself later.
You'll see him later.
What?
All right. Kevin, are you in or are you just sitting there?
I'm in.
All right, cool. Tell us.
How's it going? I'm Kevin, and I like WordPress.
Yay.
It's a good company name.
All right, so the next thing we're going to do, for a while we did show and tell where people kind of showed off their sites and all that. Well, we got a lot of show and tells. We're trying to do something different now, so this is our first plugin, actually our second plugin review. So last month we decided that we wanted to check out a plugin, and this wonderful volunteer agreed to take that plugin, test it out at home, run through it, and then do a demo tonight. So he's going to show us through the plugin, and then we're going to vote on the next plugin, and someone else, some other lucky volunteer in this room, will raise their hand and agree to do the demo next time of the plugin. So let's go ahead and start with plugin review.
My name is Justin Tucker. I do custom theme development. I own my own business that's Certain Strings. I specialize in doing some agency work and a lot of my own custom stuff. So we're going to talk about a plugin called Max Galleria, which is a responsive gallery plugin that you can use throughout your themes. It's custom post type based, so you can treat it just like a page creation or a post creation. We're going to walk through how to install it, and then settings, and then make a few of our own. One of the problems that I ran into looking for it was spelling it as two different words, but it's actually one word, if you look in the right area. There's a light version, and it has an important warning here that it's no longer maintained. So you install it from this section here. And as you download this and install it, it's actually the free version, and it has a number of add-on plugins that you can purchase and install. So once that's installed, you'll get a custom post type here with a nice little icon to give you some recognition. Just click on this guy. But right now we don't have any posts, it's brand new. You have your typical categories and tags that are applied to it. They also have a next-gen importer, which is another gallery plugin. So you can grab that data and those images and bring it into this. Apparently, some people were pretty frustrated with that, so they made this plugin. So let's talk about the settings here. So the first part, you can actually set the name of the URL. Gallery seems pretty straightforward, so we'll just leave that as it is. Next, you can check your exclude from search here, in case you don't want people seeing galleries or having those results come up. And then down here, you have two different galleries that you can create. One is an image gallery, the other one is a video gallery. Right now, there's only one option for each of these. I'll explain that a little bit later. And then out of the box, you have the ability to host YouTube videos. Now, there aren't any settings here because, as we'll see when we make a gallery of that type, there aren't really any settings. You just drop the URL in. So with all of that pretty much squared away, let's go ahead and
You said hosting, are you talking about just pulling them from YouTube and posting them on here?
Yeah, well, they won't pull the video, but it pulls a snapshot to show as far as like the preview thumb, and then it'll pop up a window. We'll see with some of the modal stuff after we create a few. So when you go to add new, it's going to prompt you to image or video. Just go ahead and make a image one to start off with. Just like any kind of post type, you give it a title, And we'll go through each one of these options. They're pretty straightforward. I've got some images in here, so we'll grab these ones. And then they'll load in. So now you have options to edit some of the information that will be found on your images, and they're all listed here. You can change the order of them by grabbing your directional button here. Don't really have much screen real estate here, but you can move them around if you want. If you go in here a little bit deeper, you can give them captions. I'll just pan in. Get a couple more here. Oh, we already got a few in here. So from there, we'll just take a look and see what it looks like. You can view it here. Oops. Make sure you publish it first. Oh, sorry, gotta save my. One thing I noticed is you have to save the permalinks again, flush them out once that custom post type is created. Now, once you do that, it loads them up. Now, it looks a little rough here because it's not dropped into a page with the theme constraints for that page. So that just gives you kind of a preview of what it's going to display. Go back in here to your galleries, the actual post. And what it does down here is it creates a couple shortcodes for you. You can use this one, but this one's kind of nicer to remember because you can just go by your gallery name. There's a few different ways you can make your post or your page. And this, putting these shortcodes in on a page or post or a custom post type will all work the same way. So I'll go into the pages. We have an image gallery here, a page that I created. Now you can just copy and paste that shortcode like we did before from the other page. Or it has a nice little button where you can choose your gallery, and then it'll drop it in with the ID. Once we hit update, then view our page. You can see our default theme for that gallery plugin is already applied. And you can click on each of the images. And what this is using is a JavaScript plugin called Fancy Box. So you can click on these arrows to show. It also has keyboard control, so you can use your left and right arrows. And resizes it all fancy. Hence the name. So if we go back to galleries, there's a few more settings and stuff that we can play with. In here you can actually view, I don't have much screen real estate, so this kind of returns to the second line, but you have other views that you can view them at, so you can get kind of an idea what the gallery will look like in your grid view. The rows kind of help you organize it a little easier rather than having to drag these big blocks of text around. The other option that's pretty cool is like if you have, I don't know, say you don't want to delete the image, but you don't want to show it in the gallery temporarily, you can click bulk actions and then do exclude, update, and then we come back here to the front page, and you only have. Oh, I didn't push it back. And you can see it's faded out here. So now, let's try that again. Now you only have your 4. So in the next tab, you have a template, and with the initial download, the free download, you only have the one layout. I'll show you the page for the add-ons after we go through a few more things here, but you can have carousels and slider type image stuff, but this is what you get right out of the box. And then in your options, you have a load of options. You can pick from a handful of themes that are already included. So if we did tightness, this one kind of strips out all of the styling, gives it a little bit of space. You can also change how many thumbnails are going to be per row. So if we want to change this down to say 4, so we give us a line return. You can also change the shape. So if you have some images they look better as a landscape version, they'll be nice landscape. And you can still, it all works the same way with clicking on and viewing the larger ones. And these option settings are per post. So if you create a new gallery, you can have a completely different theme, image count per row, titles, everything. There are defaults, which if you go back into here and say you want them to look a certain way every single time, you can click on either one of these and you have that same control panel where you can say, I want every one of them to start out as dark, and you don't have to keep changing them each time. It's the same thing with the video title. So back in our options, you can turn on captions, which is what I was editing here before. You can see our captions right here. So you can have your captions enabled. Below image, it's just going to put it below the image, and I'll show you that example. So like here, nice little.
Because it's grayed out.
Oh,
It's
right.
like,
That's just. There we go. So it's kind of disjointed because we don't have captions for all of them, which is another thing for the next setting that I noticed was a bit of an error. So if I come in here and I say bottom of image, it's going to use CSS to put a z-index, which means like you just stack your elements. So it's going to put a container on top of the image. Makes sense when I show you. So now it'll be on top of the image, which looks nice if you have a title. But if you look closely here, you can see that there's no text, but the container's still written there. So you can probably go, or you can go in and like write your own CSS to hide things like that. But it's going to be up to you. So that was one small thing that I noticed as far as settings go. The other thing that you can do, which I thought might be kind of cool, is like hide this, but then enable them for the lightbox. So when you click update, come over here and refresh, you won't see them here, but then when you pop it open, you have a nice little title right here. So it has a lot of customization that you can do per gallery. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, you can set a custom size for your lightbox too. I'll just enable that and show you how it works.
So you don't have to go resize everything.
It's arbitrary numbers. The only downside though is it doesn't use WordPress to add image size to like crop, which it shouldn't because it's not in the functions. But if I hit it, it's going to crop it out rather than show that full tall image. So if you have a large portrait image, it's going to crop it out for you.
So up a bit.
Sorry. If you have a portrait image like this one is, it's going to crop it to the height. It obviously can't create more pixels. You need that 500 pixel width that we just set. That's why when you go to this one, it makes it wider. The other one should adhere. So if I turn that off, and go here, full. See how it's nice full image. So you potentially cut some stuff off, but if you have relatively the same size of images and you don't want them to fill up a good chunk of the browser, then you can use that image size setting. And then description, it's just a small bit of text, so say something like that. You can place it above or below the gallery. Refresh. You have a nice bit of text here. What is next? Oh, and then advanced. you can actually link your own custom JavaScript and CSS to the plugin, so you can modify stuff that way as well. The other thing here, this reset, is it will take all the settings that we just set and reset them back to the defaults. So you don't have to go back in and like delete your posts and then ping all your images in. So if we go back here, it sets it back to that original theme that you have set in the default settings for the plugin settings. So that's the image one, and then there's a video option. So we'll do another one of those. So same thing here. And this one's just going to ask you for the actual YouTube URL. There are a couple of them here. You don't have to put a comma after it or anything like that. You just put the URL, hit return, put your next URL. And then you can have as many as you want. So what this does is goes out and looks at the YouTube URL, YouTube video, and grabs a snapshot of the first frame, and then pulls it in and puts it into your media uploads folder. And then you just have all the same options as before. You can come in here. You can make edits to all of this. You can even enable HD playback if you want to. Again, all of your same options. Again, there's also video add-ons. There's a Vimeo one if you want to do Vimeo. But again, you have all the same options as before. Description, advanced. So click on it here, go to update. Go to images, the video page that I made. So now when you have your drop down is separated into image galleries and video galleries. Here. Page. And again, you can change these to be wide or tall or square. So if you hit them, it just gives you a modal window. Play just like normal. The only thing that I noticed on mobile was it will pop up and the modal window won't size to the browser, but you can still hit it because at least on iOS they don't allow autoplaying YouTube videos. So you can still hit it and then it'll play the video like you would normally watch it on an iOS device.
So it'll resize itself to the right size when you
Yeah,
hit it? Okay.
yeah. But then when you click out of the video, you have to like click around the modal window to close it all, and then it'll go back to normal. But it will size. If I go back to the image gallery, we have more stuff in here, so we can see everything kind of. I know this isn't a relevant example where your browser does this by its own, but you can see how it will
resize.
Yeah. Yeah. And this again, like on iOS, you have to do the double tap unless it has a specific JavaScript library applied to it. Then there is also. Make sure yeah, so then there are actual plugins that you can add-ons. These are all the different ones that you can add on to it. You can pull stuff from Facebook. You can do a full rotating image carousel. Instagram is another one you can pull from. And so they're all about $20 to, let's see, they're based on site usage. So most of them start at $19. And I didn't purchase any of them, but I'm assuming that once you purchase one and you come into settings, you'll see more options for like Vimeo would show up here, or all of your other tiles for your plugins would show up here, and your add-on. The other nice thing is if you're a developer and you want to hook into a lot of these functions and some of these add-on features, they have a lot of functions to grab onto. A lot. And more.
Wow.
So, that's it. Yeah. So, and you can, like I said, like you can put them in any kind of post. So this is a custom post type that I made beforehand. You can do the same exact thing. Just dump it in. And it's just the same way. That's really pretty much it. Their support forum is managed on the plugin repo for WordPress.org. Their support for their add-ons is managed on their website.
Cool.
Questions?
Yeah. When you're doing this gallery, you're pulling images from your media, your standard media. Does it make a duplicate of them, or is it actually pulling them from the standard media?
It's pulling them from the standard media. So if we go back into our gallery.
So you don't have to upload the image in two different things?
No, no.
Okay.
So if we go to the media folder, you'll see, this is what I was referring to as they pulled the snapshot from the YouTube video and then just dump it in there. And then these are the images. There's a couple extra ones in here from when I was messing with it earlier.
Right.
But,
so everything ends up in your media folder, whichever way you do it.
Right.
Cool.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can even go into your galleries here. Then you can just jump into your media library and pull them straight from here, or just drag and drop, just like your standard media insert.
Now, if you uploaded them from your computer, they go into the media library. Then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we want to know.
Yeah.
We don't like having two different places. That's good.
Right. That's stupid.
Yeah, but I've run into it.
Oh yeah.
But it's nice also that you can go in and make your gallery and just upload it and not have to add it to your media gallery first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You just create it in one stream workflow from gallery creation.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank
and you can also do, like, if you have a bunch of photos and you want to just upload them all at once into your media folder, you can do it that way and then pick and choose once you create the gallery post.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
When you upload images, let's assume the images have already been uploaded to Media Gallery. They have like a title and the alt attribute filled out already. Does this have an option to pull from that data that's already in the database?
It did on some of them. I've noticed a couple overlap. Like when you go to set some of the caption fields, it won't need it right away.
Okay.
But if you look at where we did the video ones, kind of, it is what it is, because like it just kind of duplicates it and tosses it in there. But if you look at it, it's pulling from, I believe it's the YouTube title, right, and then just dumping it in there. With the image, you can potentially have some data, some metadata already in the image, and it might pull it in. So like you can see it's pulling in the name of the actual file there, but other than like pulling the other stuff, I'm not quite sure.
So this is back to the whole shared images. If you actually remove something permanently from a gallery, is it still in your media?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the other
yeah,
thing
I
too.
forgot to ask it going the other way.
if you look at our gallery here, we have all of these images. Let's say you just definitely don't want this one in here. Just click remove. So we'll take it out of there, and then we go back into the media library, and that image is still.
Okay. That was what I was worried about.
I would imagine if you remove it from your media library, then it would automatically come up the gallery, though, right?
Probably.
We can test that. That's
Yeah.
one since I cannot test. A couple of duplicates, so we'll just make sure it's in. Yeah, so if it doesn't exist, it removes it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Very, very cool. Thank you. All right, well, while David is getting set up for his presentation on Headway, 2 orders of business. Number 1, we need to figure out what's a plugin for next month. So has anyone had a plugin that they're interested in looking at or interested in knowing more about?
iTheme security. iTheme demo.
iTheme security, and Joe will demo. Woohoo!
That was easy.
Yeah.
Are you gonna demo it, or are you gonna show the settings?
Everything. On the website.
Yay, yay, yay. I love it when we get both the volunteer and the topic at the same time. Gotta love that. That was easy. All right, so next month we're going to do iTheme Security with Joe as the plugin demo. So now, while David's getting set up, let's go ahead and do our tips and tricks and idea swap. And so that is just a time for us to kind of throw out neat things, ask for questions if you have a plugin. I need a So you enter your site. StudioPress has one called studiopress.com/responsive, and that's what I've used, but I've never heard of this one. Sweet. Love. Uh-oh, he's going to check and see how good we are.
Oh, there it is.
All right, we're not bad. We're all right. The screen's washing out. It's really hard to see. I mean, like, the site looks different than that.
Oh yeah, it takes a while to load up there.
Yeah. Nice.
There's a plugin that I found for Chrome. I can't remember what it's called now, but it helps you to test
Okay, because there's a Firefox plugin, but Chrome was missing one for a while, so Chrome has one now.
I can't remember what it's called.
Okay.
Called responsive resize.
Okay. It's responsive resize in
I have one
Chrome.
called Dimensions that I use.
Okay.
And you can pick the
Oh no, that's not
screen.
that one's fine.
Is that it?
Yeah, I haven't used it much. I don't really need to because I use that one. So.
Okay. Nice, nice, nice.
And I just drag most of it out.
Cool.
Viewport resizer. That's the
What is it?
Viewport resizer.
Viewport resizing is the
Resizer.
Google Chrome. Or Viewport
Does it
resizer.
resize
And that's the
the window
Chrome
of Chrome
extension.
itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, like it creates like an iframe and then moves everything
Oh, it does?
within that.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you often forget which plugins that you use or like, make sure that you have a WordPress.org account. What are the plugins and favorite the plugin? Because what you can do in any WordPress install, you can just look up your username on WordPress.org and quickly get the list of plugins you use on a regular basis. Mostly beneficial for people who do WordPress installs and they're power users. If you ever just forget the name of the plugin, for instance, Gravity Forms, it's like a bunch of sub-plugins. Genesis has a number of sub-plugins, and they're hard to find at first glance. So find the one you want, hit favorite on WordPress.org, come back to it, so it's pretty good.
Sweet.
And you could not just look at your own saved plugins, you could also look at other users just by having
There's also a service where you can install all your plugins at once too.
There's several. There's the Infinite WP, there's iTheme Sync, there's Managed WP. Those are the 3 big ones, I think.
Fades.
Oh, I have WP Fades?
Yeah.
All right.
You got to go in and find them in there, from the repository, and then you save them.
Then you save it as a favorite.
Right, and then
Okay.
you install that plugin and install it.
Very cool. So Jeremy and I have been working on a site where we need to see different role, like we need to see what a client sees or like a user sees. And we've got a user who's an editor, and we have a user who's a subscriber, and we need to be able to quickly see. So instead of having to log out and remember the login creds and log back in, we've been using user switching as a plugin. And so when you install user switching, what happens is you go to all users, and when you roll your mouse over a user, a new link comes in that says switch to. So you can just roll down your list of users, and you can switch to someone, and all of a sudden, you're now looking at the site from that user's standpoint. And then whenever you're ready to switch back, you either go to the top or the bottom, and it says switch back to Carol, and it will switch back to, or whatever, switch back to whatever you initially logged in. And so that's very handy if you're needing to test what the sites look like from different standpoints. So.
I wonder if we should mention that Data Planks will be a conference for nonprofits. If anybody's just working with nonprofits, there's going to be a conference at
Avondale. The date has not been set yet for that. But yes, Claire and I have been kind of pinged to be on that planning committee for the unconference for Gangplank. So yeah, it's going to be an unconference about nonprofits and how they can utilize and maximize technology. HQ.com. Yeah, I think we'll have a date fairly soon and more details later. I'm sure it's not going to happen before the next meetup, so you can stay tuned for the next meetup. Cool. Any other tidbits, news, tips, and tricks, and needs and wants?
You mentioned a plugin that helps you make your posts with Google or you know what I'm saying, so you can share it.
The share plugins?
I don't know what it is. I'm a newbie, so I have like posts that are pretty big, but I want to get them some share at least a snippet of what they're using.
There's a lot of share plugins. We had, okay, who was at the Business of Web meetup when we talked about that 2 months ago? There was a lot of discussion about those share plugins. There are some, and I think you have to dig in and figure out what works for you. Shareaholic is one. Share This is another.
What are from Jetpack?
Just Jetpack has the share. That's right. Jetpack.
Like the Jetpack auto post.
Jetpack auto post.
Like when you create a post, it
And
puts
it's
it like on
automatically, you
Facebook.
could do Facebook
Okay.
or Twitter or whatever.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Do
Alright.
you tell it the text, like if you?
No, it picks it.
Picks it from the content. You can set it, I think. I'm not sure.
I haven't tried to
I
set
haven't
it
really
for
used
that.
it that much.
I didn't see any setting for setting.
Okay,
you can change the text.
Jetpack Socialize, I heard someone say.
Yeah, well, that's the plugin.
That's what we're
the
talking about.
section's called
Okay.
Socialize, and in the post, like where you would publish your post, there's a drop down, you can change the text.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
It does a pretty good job.
It repopulates the title of the post. So, I mean, I write a social one too, but it's more of a one that's supposed to go to Pro, but it takes the concept of sharing the first time and shares it across a few different days, so you can kind of reach more people at different times. But yeah, that is a single post to publish.
Okay. Again, other tips, tricks, needs, wants. We've got
test.org, which yields a more technical overview as to the performance of the website.
What is it called?
The one I recommend.
Did you say what page?
Web page.
The other one is GT Metrics, which is a more user-friendly overview as to how fast your site loads. You can click on any of the sections. It gives you both sort of a user-friendly explanation as well as a technical explanation. It's important, especially if you look at hosts like, say WP Engine, GoDaddy, or even DreamHost or whatever, and you want to understand how fast your web host is to most people who aren't on your own connection. They'll help you do some good troubleshooting.
And
it's also objective. You can do it over and over and over for free, and you can see the statistical output.
And Joe, that was a fabulous intro to the fact that Kurt Payne is going to be presenting on page site load speed.
Nice.
I can't remember what month we've got you in.
October.
October. We're actually booked out all the way to October, believe it or not. But he's going to be presenting on that in October. He's going to show you the waterfall test, how to read the waterfall test, or the waterfall report on here, and just give some practical advice on what to look for to try and get your sites loading faster. So, yay! Thank you for that lead into the end. All right.
I don't know if there's any, I know there's a couple themers and plugin developers here, but debug bar, I know it's probably everyone has in their toolbox, but like, gotta have it.
Debug bar.
Debug bar and its extension.
And its extensions, okay?
And query monitor. And query monitor.
Query monitor.
Yeah,
yeah.
they're both really good.
Yeah. All right. All right. Anything else? If you think of something at the end of the meetup, whenever we have our just kind of socialized network meet and greet, please feel free to peg any of these people you saw and kind of network and find out what they want to know or what they know and use that time to get to know each other. All right, our next presentation is by David Monaghan with Allstruck. David's one of the anchors here, he's a resident here at Gangplank, and he's going to show us about Headway Themes. I also have to tell you that Headway Themes is a brand new sponsor of the WordPress Meetup group. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but no one anywhere ever in Meetup group gets paid for anything. It's all volunteer, and we even had a couple of our leaders, organizers, who were paying for space out of their own pocket. So not only were they not getting paid, they were actually paying to work and paying to volunteer. And so I'm really happy to announce that Headway Themes is our most recent sponsor of the Meetup group, and they are helping us so that our wonderful volunteers don't have to pay out of their pocket anymore for meeting space. So anyway, if anyone's tweeting, what's Grant? Mark, do you know Grant's Twitter handle?
Griffiths.
Grant Griffiths?
Griffiths, yeah.
Say that 3 times. Grant Griffiths is with Headway Themes. So if you're tweeting, tweet a thank you quickly to Grant for his support of the Arizona WordPress Meetup group. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand over to David.
All right, so has anybody seen Headway before? Show of hands. Two? Okay. So has anybody seen a drag and drop or a drag and draw theme builder in WordPress before?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know the names of them. Page Lines is a pretty popular one out there. What is it? Ultimate. So I looked at some of them early on, but Headway has been the one that I've been using for probably a year or more now. I've been using it since version 2, which was much different than what they have now on version 3, but version 3 is pretty solid in my opinion. I'm just going to run through some of the stuff pretty quick, and I'm not really giving a formal presentation, so if you have questions in the middle of it, just feel free to ask. And what I'm planning on doing is actually just building a quick copy of this layout in Headway really quick. So I've got a site here that I installed it on. I've got it basically just I put it together really quick before the presentation just to make sure that I knew what I was doing. But I deleted everything, so I'm starting from scratch. The plugin's just cleanly installed. It's the most recent version from their website, which is I think 3.6.3, just so everybody knows. So I'm going to go to the dashboard on WordPress really quick here. And we can see if we go to Headway right now, the first thing it shows you is just the kind of a welcome screen, and it says you can jump into the visual editor, which is where you're going to do most of your work with Headway. First, what I like to do is go into the options and change some things. You have to put in a license fee to get your updates to it. You have to pay for Headway. It's a nominal fee for what you get. One site, I think, is around $50 or $40. $60 for one site, or you can get a developer license to do as many sites as you want, or a business license can get you 5 or up to 3 sites.
The update on the developer's only $99 a year, too.
Yeah, I think they give you a discount on all of them, don't they?
At least on the developer, I don't know about the other ones.
Yeah, I actually bought it back when it first came out. There was a developer license that was forever, so I haven't had to
sweet.
pay for it again. But refresh this. That's the layout that I had before. If I actually go into it now from scratch, we'll see. Here's what you'll see from Headway for the first time once you've installed it. If you go into the visual editor, you're on a theme picker page. The grid wizard here will let you pick a general layout to start off from, so you don't have to draw everything that you would normally draw anyways. So here is the most basic one, a header. You can see a header, navigation, a content body, and a footer in here. So I'm just going to pick that one. So here's the header, here's the navigation, here's the content, and here is the footer. And it's all right now inside of one grid. So if I save this, you can see on the site before there was just this, no content to display. But now if I save this, we'll see the most basic starter Headway site. So obviously what we want to do is go from that to something more like this. Usually you can actually just edit this. You could put different content blocks inside of this one wrapper, but I prefer a lot of times to switch things or to organize things into different wrappers. So what's that? Yeah, so if you try to overlap wrappers, it'll actually turn them red and won't let you do that because that's not allowed. So we'll talk about how, if you needed to overlap wrappers, how you would do that. You can see in the WordPress, the Arizona WordPress group website, there's actually this this section here is overlapping this section in a way, right? So I'll show you how to overlap two sections in Headway once we get to the visual styling editor. But first, let's organize these into the different wrappers. So we can see a wrapper here has a white background and it's got a little bit of a drop shadow. The gray section behind here is actually the body. And so if we want to copy something like this, it looks like there's actually these sections would be kind of their own wrappers. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a wrapper here for the header, for like the navigation logo section, and then a header underneath that, or it's called a subheader. That's got this black background or this dark gray background with a paragraph of text and a title. And then we've got a grid here that overlaps that header that's got, say, call it the hero, a main section of text and a little graphic on the left. So let's start there, I suppose. We'll create another wrapper by going down here to add. You can add a fluid wrapper or a fixed wrapper. And then with fluid wrapper, you can choose between a fluid width grid and a fixed width grid. So I'll run through both of those really quickly here. You can see a fluid wrapper is actually extending all the way to the edges of the window instead of this one here, which is a fluid wrapper. It doesn't extend to the edge, it just extends to the width of the grid at this point. So that second one that I just added is also a fixed width wrapper. I'm going to delete that. And I'll add another wrapper that is fluid, but with a fluid width grid this time. So does everybody see the lines on there? Is that possible? No?
Oh wait, the lines inside?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You see there's actually grid lines.
Oh yeah.
Like,
We can see that.
Yeah.
Gutter, and then the actual column itself.
Yeah.
So you've got 24 of these columns, and this is just like your standard 12 column or 24 column grid. What do you call it? Grid system. So has everybody heard of that? The grid system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with a fluid wrapper that has a fixed width grid, if I try to draw in here, I am limited to the actual width of the grid system at the time. I have settings that I can change what that width is, but the default is something around 940, it looks like. Whereas with a fluid wrapper, or I mean a fluid width grid on the fluid wrapper, I can actually add content sections that do span to the edge of the window instead of just the edge of the grid system. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in this case, looking at here, we can see everything is based off of a fixed grid, but we do have both fluid wrappers and fixed wrappers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do we see that the orange up here, or the blue, is a fluid width grid with a fixed wrapper, or I'm sorry, a fluid wrapper with a fixed grid, and so is the gray section, and then we have some fixed grids underneath. So it should be pretty easy for us to draw all those here. Add these to the headway visual editor here. So let's say change this we'll call the top one that I've got here now the header. We will change it to a fluid, and then we've got the next section that we can actually add stuff to. We'll take our content block and we're going to put it into this one below. I'm going to change the type of this. You can actually change, if you right click on this wrapper, I can change the type back over to one of the other ones. I don't have to recreate it. So I'm going to change this to a fixed grid, change grid to fixed. And I'm just going to start adding in some sample content blocks here. Let's make some images.
Oh, we should have talked about Place Kitten. That's a good one. Describe that really quickly.
Yeah, so obviously sometimes when you're making something just for example or to show to somebody before you're finishing the product off, you need sample images. My preferred place to get those is from Place Kitten because he doesn't love kittens, right?
And you just use the 200 to 300 to say.
Yeah, so you can basically create an image of any size just by changing the actual URL itself. You just grab, if I needed one that was 800 by 800, then I do placekitten.com/800/800. So height width, or I believe, yeah, height width.
Where's place dog?
Yeah, there's lots of place things. So, and next, in a little bit, I'll show you another kitten-related sample content.
Kitten
generator.
Ipsum.
Yeah. So I already have that URL, so what I'm going to do, just so we get different images on here, is I'll just change these URLs.
So like, typically duplicate an existing, how do we call this, box?
Yeah, so
versus drawing one each time?
That's a good question. You can, it's called cloning. You can clone entire templates. Like this is a template now that I've created for the whole page. I can clone that whole template, and then when I do that, what it does is actually create a whole template with clone blocks. And it takes the settings of the clone block. I can unclone it. It still has the settings so that I can edit the simple things that I need to. Good. One thing that I don't think there is, but I would like to see, is cloning a wrapper. But I'm sure one day they will add that. They've been making a lot of changes to Headway and advancements, so in a way it's kind of one of the big problems of Headway is how quickly they make updates. They have to relearn a little bit, but everything that they've changed so far I really appreciate. Oops, hold on, okay, so I've got my 3 kittens. I'm just going to save that for good measure. And we'll move on to creating some more wrappers here. I'll do a fixed width again. Fluid wrapper. Oh no, wait, I want some. What I want is a fixed grid on these now. Fixed wrapper, fixed width. I'll put a footer in one of these here. Move it down, so I can move them down, as you can see, with the slider here. Sorry if I'm not explaining every step. Some of it's kind of self-explanatory, but again, if you have questions, just interrupt me. Fixed wrapper again. Here, I think I need one more, right? Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to try to generally copy that site completely. So there was the logo on the left, navigation on the right. One thing we can see is the navigation is centered, sort of, or maybe let's say it's aligned right. So I can go to the settings of any of these blocks by right-clicking them, and then there's actually several different. Oh no, I'm sorry. Just the block options in here are just single to that individual block. It's not cloned, so I can actually go in here and see each of these different options down in here. One of them is orientation, so I can switch from left, the default, to either right or center. In this case, I'm going to go center, but that doesn't really matter. Let's see, so I've got, I need a fluid width, I need 2 fluid width ones. I've already got the 1 fluid width, I need the 2nd fluid width. We will add a new one for that. It's a fixed width grid. So that's going to have the dark background. I'm going to change the height on this a bit.
So this is just sort of a wireframing of the site, correct?
Yeah, so I should have explained, this is actually the grid mode of the visual editor. There's actually also design mode, which we will get into next.
So it doesn't actually look like, it won't actually look like this.
Yeah, so if I save right now and take a look at the site, we can see it does look very different. Some of these sections are just tiny because there's nothing in them.
But no styling yet.
Sample page content, yeah.
Right,
so this is just the grid, the layout, basically, the layout generator is what I call it.
It seems like that would be a helpful tool with clients to get them to sign off at the grid mode before you start implementing all the graphics.
Do you ever do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I sit down with the client and I say, okay, this is basically what I think that you're wanting as far as a layout. I even jump into the grid and start choosing some of their colors. I try to choose like up to 2 fonts and up to 5 colors in front of them, and they can see, you know, exactly what it's going to look like at the end of the day. And it's really so quick at making things. A lot of times I've got the site 80% finished as far as style is concerned right in front of them. So you can create like 3 different templates for the different types of things on the site, or 5 templates, however much. But hopefully we'll have enough time, and I'll jump into creating a 2nd template after this. But I'm just going to walk through here really quick. We want so let's say we want like a text block, because then here we had this title and this paragraph of text. So when I go to drag and draw, you saw I just did here, right? When I created the images down here, I picked the image type block. This time I'm going to choose one of the other types of blocks that I have to choose from, which is this one I'm going to pick text. So with the text block, I've got a content editor, and I can choose, or I can, WYSIWYG type in whatever I need to, and I've got...
Learn, share more.
What?
Wouldn't it learn, share something?
Yeah, sure. Learn, share. Is that what you got typed in?
I think it was. Learn, share.
This is where lorem ipsum comes in. So instead of doing lorem ipsum, we're going to do kitten ipsum. It's better. So I'll do all kitten, because I don't need any Latin in there. And I will actually edit some of the HTML on this and make this a H1 or let's say an H2 tag. Now we can see we have text in there. Oh, I didn't take this centered because I deleted that. So that's good enough for now. Close enough for Jazz. I'm going to find out why I'm missing a kitten image down here. See kitten? Anybody see my kitten?
He used to be there.
He's here, but he's a phantom kitten. He's Schrodinger's kitten. Let's see, image, shoot that again. URL, oops. too much to hope for out of the I suppose. Okay, so yes, we need a section that's going to overlap on that dark area there. Do that really quick. Just do another text block here. Or I suppose I should talk about the content block. I'll talk about that separately though. This is next. So the block that was already on here, the content block, what that's going to do is pull from the WordPress loop, which is the the page that's currently being activated. Whether it's the homepage content or current post that you're looking at, it's going to pull that content and put that in there. That's where we're getting the sample homepage content here. That's actually coming from the WordPress editor. That should make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what we want to do is actually put our kittens above the content text. And then we want to start jumping into the visual mode, or the design mode.
Save.
Yeah. If I try to go without saving, it'll warn me, which is nice. But we'll go ahead and jump into there now and start to play around with this. So we can see our, looks like home is broken. Oh, I did change some of the styling in here, so it still has my styling effects. I could reset that, but I'm just going to start doing things like changing the background of these blocks here, like we want them, and then we need to get rid of the gap that's between them. Can't really see without doing that, but you can see this is a gap, this is the white section. So we need to bump them up next to each other, like it was on the other side. And then we want to actually bump this one up so far it's overlapping with that section. But first we'll just change the colors. When you right-click on a block here, and actually when you're hovering, you can see it's showing you which block you're going to be selecting if I were to click on one. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of nesting inside of here. I've got the main wrapper. So if I need to change the way that something looks, I need to make sure to specify what it is that I'm wanting to change, not just change the whole wrapper necessarily. In this case, I do want to change, for example, this wrapper. Let's change maybe the height and the background of it. So when I right-click on it, I've got a few different things that I can actually choose to edit from. I've got edit this instance, I've got edit regular element, and then just edit for this layout. So what that means is if I choose edit this instance, it's only going to be editing that one that I selected right now. If I go to another page where there's another of those wrappers, the styling that I'm about to apply won't be applied if I were to select edit instance. Now, if I edit regular element, it's going to edit all wrappers on all pages, including the other wrappers on this page. And then if I do edit for this layout, I can just edit the wrappers that are on this page. Right now, if I go to another page, I'm not editing the style for those different wrappers. That'll make a little bit more sense once we have another template that we're editing. In this case, what I want to do is actually edit this instance. So I don't want to make any other wrappers anywhere else change background colors. I want to be changing just this one that I'm working on right now. And I want to make that one have a background color, let's say, the background color of blue, which on here, or the orange. Let's just do that. Blue background. Now I can see when I have an element selected, like this widget or this wrapper, there's more. It's highlighting the actual element itself, but then there's kind of like in Chrome Inspector or any whatever web inspector, it's showing me also the padding and the margins. So the darker blue on the inside is the margin, the padding, I mean, and then the orange on the outside of it is the margin. So if I would need to get these things right next to each other, then the first thing that I want to do is make sure that there's no margin getting in the way. So here I've got a margin section. I can customize just the bottom one, or I can hit the link and it'll actually make it so I customize all of them at once. In this case, I'll do that because I don't want any margins on the top either. Not that there were, but let's just make sure and set these to 0. So now I have 0 margin on that top wrapper, and without affecting any of the other wrappers. I'm going to do the same thing on this wrapper, edit this instance, just that wrapper. I'm going to set the margins to 0, at least on the top. In this case, I'm going to do them both, I guess. And then now we need to move to the next section. I can change the background on this actually to dark gray of some kind, and change the font color to, let's say, white. Okay. Another thing I know I'm going to need to do is actually edit the element inside of the wrapper, which is this text element. I'm going to edit just that instance, and I'm going to add a padding below it, make room in the wrapper itself for that overlay that we're going to do. So here's padding, not padding actually, margin, I'm sorry. Bottom.
Over there. Does that actually say padding on margin?
Yeah, there's here a margins editor and then a padding editor down here, all these different sections. So I'm going to add a margin of 100, for example. And I'm going to hide this here so it's easier for me to see what I'm doing. I'm going to edit this instance on the wrapper that's below that I want to overlay above this section here. And we need to basically remove the top margin. In fact, we need to do a negative margin on that. So I did a negative of 100 to match the padding of 100 that I added. That should have given us what we wanted. We'll see again here. So yeah, I've overlaid that whole wrapper on top of the other wrapper.
You could have nudged it too, correct?
Yeah, nudging I think is another way to do it. There's reasons to use nudging or padding that I won't go into, mostly because I honestly I couldn't tell you. But yeah, there is in Headway you have nudging as well, which is nice. They didn't always have that, but
What's nudging?
it's basically it's just like taking an element that where it's currently at. You can change the display type to go from just a standard block to absolute positioning, and then when you set like top and left, those two CSS parameters normally are actually the nudging of an element in relative to the space that it was already in. Yeah, if that makes sense. So in this case, a negative margin or negative margin is sufficient. So if that's not sufficient, then sometimes we'll have to go. Let's see. So let's take a look at what I've got so far here. Here's the actual site. That's getting pretty close to what I'm looking for. Next, I would probably want to change the colors on this navigation. Put a logo in here. That's pretty straightforward stuff. Headway makes this so easy that I really shouldn't even have to explain that stuff. I wanted to jump directly into the first questions everybody has about Headway. It's like, okay, I can drag a really simple 2013 or 2012 theme out of it, but now how do I overlap wrappers and blocks and stuff like that? I do nudging. But the really hard part is just wrapping your mind around what the how Headway settings and visual interface works. But it's pretty straightforward. This is your design. I can choose elements manually and be as fine-grained as I need to. Selecting exactly the elements that I want to apply style to, like either at a top level or fine-grained down to this individual element within other elements. And then, of course, if I need to, I can always edit using CSS as well. They have a visual live CSS editor built in. And let's say I wanted to edit the CSS of this wrapper. Instead of having to know which CSS selector to use, I can actually pick this wrapper, hit for example, this, what do you call it? Edit this instance. And then here there's a live CSS button that will apply the selector that will most likely be what I want to that. In this case, it actually didn't do just that instance, so you do need to be careful. Like right now, if I did a background of black, it changed all of them. So you need to make sure to select the exact instances you want in the CSS. And there are some tools that you can use to help you with that. If I go to the settings for a block, which it looks like they removed. Or no, I guess that's blocks, not wrappers. Yeah, I can edit the block options from here, just like I could in the grid, which is a little bit weird, but what I want to do is add a class to this wrapper. I guess I can't do the class on the wrapper. If I go to the settings or the options for content block, there's actually a way in here to add an alias, which is an internal name that Headway uses, and then I can also add classes, which can be selected from in CSS. So if I added a class on that block of testing, and then in my CSS, I do a testing selector and say background is ink. Maybe pink is some color. Or maybe because I didn't save, it doesn't have that class. But I can always get to the live CSS editor up here on the top, and you can, as long as the class is already applied, which sometimes it's not because I just added it and I didn't save, and there's a little bit of a bug there with Headway, minor, but if I were to do a body display none, I can see the changes that I'm doing in general.
So when you're in wireframe, though, and you're just structuring your layout and all those wrappers in place, at that point, though, you can add IDs and classes to those wrappers.
From where?
When you're in the grid mode, when you're designing the layout of it. Yeah.
I can add them to the blocks. I do not know of a way to add them to the wrappers, unfortunately. Yeah, I can now. They already have Headway adds its own classes and IDs to everything. So if I take a look here in the page, I'll inspect this top one, for example, and we have. Let's see, where's the wrapper? Here's wrapper. ID is wrapper-9. So that's always going to be just that wrapper.
That wrapper, what I'm thinking is if you're designing, all your template paths, not just a homepage, like this is great, but let's say you're designing a site, you've got a template for your homepage and a template for a page and a template for your super blog page, and you have that wrapper, you want to add a wrapper at the top of every page, then is that always going to be header number 9? Because let's say you want to style the header on your homepage different than other interior pages.
That's a good question. Because you can't.
If I'm doing by hand, I just can't code all. I love this one,
Yeah.
but I just can't code it all out. I create my divs, I give them a in the class like that.
As
so
I
if
used
I'm
to.
doing it visually, how would I go about applying a class? I use a particular wrapper on my homepage and use that uniquely, but it still have the same structure and layout.
Really, it would come down to using the IDs themselves, and applying the CSS to the different IDs, and then I believe we'll have to take a look, and we can do this really quick. We'll create another template, which is a clone template, and then see if it changes the ID of that wrapper. I believe it's going to keep the same ID as that wrapper that it cloned from. It's because it's basically that same exact instance.
So you can't name that one block?
Not the wrappers. But the blocks, yes. I can name the blocks and apply CSS classes to the blocks, but not the wrappers. So if we go back to the editor here, if I right-click on a block, this content block, for example, and I go to its options, there is a config section where I can change CSS classes and alias. Alias, to my knowledge, does not save into the HTML anywhere where I can apply to that. Yeah, it doesn't.
Probably just if you're in that wireframe, you wouldn't know what that is, like, you wouldn't be.
Exactly, yeah, because when you're cloning a block, for example, it's really hard to go through and say, oh, what, yeah, because it'll tell you, like, if I go now to the options for this block to mode, I guess it would be display, no, where is it? It's in config, I'm sorry. There's a mirror block section here, and it would give me all of the other blocks, all the other content blocks, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So giving it an alias makes it so I can pick the right one. So I try to do that in general. In Headway, I try to make sure that I gave aliases to all my blocks so I can keep things neat, orderly. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So, not related, really, anything you've demonstrated.
Sorry.
With the code that's generated, is this actually writing CSS files, or is this writing data to the pages? So on every page load, it's going to do this.
Yeah, it's writing to the database, and then once you load a page, it has to generate the CSS files based on that.
So you don't see the PHP. You're not getting in PHP at all.
Technically, yeah, you're not creating individual CSS or HTML files based off of this. You're writing to the database a whole set of information that tells Headway exactly what you did in the grid editor and the design mode of the grid editor.
What does that do for page load?
What?
What does that do for page load?
I recommend always caching. It does add to your page load. It's
Okay.
negligible, really, when it comes down to it, but when you've got hundreds of thousands or tens of people on your site at the same time, even, you want to make sure that that's not happening every time. There's no good reason for it. Don't, go through your database when this next guy who's going to come look at your site, he should be seeing the same thing. You might as well cache that as, through whatever service or proxy system you use.
Also, object caching would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would not recommend running without caching of some kind, ever. But this will add to that quite a bit, because it is a lot of information to have to pull out for every single different little thing on the site.
Is it create any online code you can use, like, say you use this to create initially and then export it? Because, like, where you're using the live CSS editor there, it's obviously creating some CSS somewhere. Is there a way to say, build it all visually and then export it so you've got your technical files and your CSS?
I wish there was. I mean, there are WordPress plugins that can do that on their own, but nothing specifically for Headway.
So what was the question?
The question was, is there some way to basically take what you did in Headway and convert it to a standard HTML, CSS template, or HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? I personally use Foundation if I'm doing stuff from scratch. Foundation is basically like Bootstrap, Twitter Bootstrap, but I prefer it over Bootstrap.
I remember when I was looking at, I really wanted to get into Headway and I just never got into it. They were talking about skins, which to me looked like child themes. It looked like they were kind of going down the Studio Press path and we're going to do child themes. Are they still doing that?
Yeah, well, it is different from child themes.
Okay.
It is, skins are basically all of the designed rules that you would apply through here. You can download or apply a skin, which already has all that set up for you. Margins, colors, all that kind of stuff.
But then you can then get in
It's like
there and then change and do a lot of work. So you could start with already a skin and do some customization.
Right. Yeah. And then you can also do child themes. So what I have for my setup, every time I set up a new site, I've got all the plugins that I want already preloaded, and I've also got Headway pre-installed, but I have my own child theme of Headway, which does some things to Headway that I prefer. Like I don't like the dark user interface, so I inverted all the colors, so it's a light-based theme on the user interface. Not possible before. And then there's a few little bugs that I've been, if I'm able to quickly go fix it, then I fix it in my child theme instead of trying to just edit the Headway stuff, which is a no-no. So yeah, but that's not applying. My child theme is not the same as what you'd think of as a WordPress child theme. It's not.
WordPress child theme, you make the
on
design
that
changes in that, but that's not what you use that child theme
In
for.
this, all of the stuff is going into the Headway editor, the visual editor, either in grid mode or in design mode.
And so whenever updates happen, we're good? Updates to Headway?
Yeah, I haven't seemed to have any problems with it, not since version 2. With version 3, everything seems to operate okay.
Community where you can download themes.
Not a big enough one because of how much they changed. You know, the visual editor back here, the grid editor, changed completely from version 2 to version 3. So there was a small growing community in version 2 that pretty much disbanded after 3 because their stuff doesn't work at all. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully they'll stick with what they've got now long enough that will actually start to build up, and I feel that that's possible. When I was in 2, I was like, no, this is not. I'm not going to see myself using this very much. And I was playing with 2, 3 was coming out, and I looked at the beta. I was like, yeah, that's going to be awesome. So I waited.
How long's 3 been out?
Probably about a year, I think. A little over a year, maybe.
It also works with WooCommerce.
Yeah.
There are actually WooCommerce selectors that come up.
And then I can always add PHP code too. I should have shown a custom code block really quick, but it's really fast. Go to grid. I'll just add another wrapper really quick. Draw a block. Check, select which type I want. In this case, custom code block allows me to actually use PHP code. So if I did PHP echo get the title, something like that. I've got home down here.
You also reference shortcuts.
In the text block, in the custom code block, or I mean the text block and the content block. So if I put a shortcode into a content section on the visual editor or the WordPress editor, those work obviously, but then the text block they also do.
So let's say that you forget a letter in that PHP function, does it protect you and not show what you read that?
If you do what?
So if you were to type in a function that doesn't exist, cause a fatal error. So if you type in get the title, you just type.
That's a good question. I can't say for sure without trying right now, which I will do. However, I'm pretty sure that it kills the block and not the page. So let's try it out. We'll echo blah, which there's nothing there. It doesn't work. Yeah, so it looks like, oh, does PHP not require quotes anymore? Yeah, but there's no quotes around it. I thought that was a bad block.
Yeah, if you were trying
You
to
just
do a
change it from
function,
Edward to just.
yeah, if you were trying to do a function and you had a function.
Yeah, like a function that doesn't exist.
Yeah, we'll call it blah blah blah, right?
Two parentheses, whatever.
Yeah, we'll try to break it.
Group PHP programming.
Yeah, I think it is just killing the block, it looks like. Pretty sure. Now, of course, it doesn't stop you from infinite loops and stuff like that, but that's a different story. So it probably, I guess the one thing that we should try is putting this above some of the other blocks, because it might kill the blocks below it. Yeah, it looks like it did. Yeah.
So what happens? It just stops running the scripts right there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't load anything below.
Do we need to create another template? Up here I've got the actual individual templates that you can choose from. So I can create a template for any set of pages. The first one that I created was front page or index, whatever you want to call it. And what's going to happen is now everything else, like if I go to a post page on the site, it's going to check to see if there is a template defined for posts, and if there's not, it's going to move up the chain and pick the one, the first one that it finds. So in this case, let's say that I wanted to have, I probably don't want this whole dark header. I just want, like, say, the blue title bar and whatever else underneath it when I'm on an individual single page, for example. I will first delete this wrapper. Little plug here. Delete wrapper. Oh, here's another little bug in Headway too, because of the, for some reason it's applying the padding, or the margin setting to the grid, which it should not do. So I've actually got overlapping grids in the grid editor, or wrappers in the grid editor, which is not what I would expect, I don't think, but we'll gloss over that. What am I doing? I am editing the single. So I've got in here, I've got single, and I can actually just make it so single posts have a different template than single pages. Or I could actually select one of the single posts themselves. I can create a template that only applies to the Hello World post. Or pages. This supports custom post types. I can set up archive templates for every single different type of archive you have in a 404 layout. But in this case, let's say we'll just make a single one. Oops, did I not save that for the block? I will clone the front page. So if we save that now, it's basically going to be exactly what we had before. In this case, we will should have saved before I cloned. Delete that block. I will delete this block, this wrapper. Delete this wrapper. We'll keep the kittens, of course. There, so now I'm on the news page, which is a blog index. And if I go to any single page, it's gonna, like I said, it goes up the line of templates. And since, let's see, the blog index actually should be. Oh, it's just, I guess it's pulling the single page version because news is a single page. It should be an archive, I think, but I don't know. We'll gloss over that. But yeah, so if I do a single, if I pull up a single post, it's pulling the index for the single template that we just edited. Sorry, I'm confused by that. I'll have to look at that later. So let's look really quick to answer her question at the ID on this block, or this wrapper domain. And so it looks like it did actually apply a different ID to that wrapper. 18. It's wrapper 18. It does have a class of wrapper first, so you can apply to that. Oops, I gotta have a broken block on there. Yeah, and then there's also templates you can create. I, for some reason, never use this, but I can actually create templates on an ad hoc basis, or just not necessarily applied specifically to one of the single or archive sections in here, and then I can apply that template to things from there. It's another way to organize your templates.
And you can import, so like you get some favorite base layouts, you can save those, export, and then import into a new site?
I think there is a way to do that, but I've not done it, so I can't confirm that. Okay. But I believe there is.
Does it add in your poster page edit screens, like you're adding a new poster page, show up as templates you created so you can choose them in writing post, but you have to actually in your theme editor?
Actually, that's the benefit of using the layout templates. Those will appear in the template selector on your post editor. Or, Headway adds its own, but it's basically the same thing.
Right, so you're writing a post and then somewhere down below you can choose the layout to apply to that.
Exactly. Any other questions? I think that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah.
Are there any plugin conflicts like WordPress SEO or anything like that because of the way it's fired?
I do not. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I don't use a whole lot of plugins personally. Like if I need something crazy advanced, usually plugins aren't going to help me. I do run WordPress SEO by Yoast, and I install WooCommerce by default, but I don't have it activated. Actually, I can see in here what my defaults are. I use Gravity Forms, Jetpack, Types custom post
and views.
W3, yeah, that's my standard de facto set. Yeah. I'm sure there are some out there that have problems with it, but in general, Headway seems to do a pretty good job of sculpting those. Anybody want to see something else?
Can you show us some of the sites that you designed with it?
I'm not really a designer, but this is the most recent one that I threw together for somebody. Trying to actually improve on my design skills. So I spent probably less than 5 hours tops on this. I just made it all from scratch. He didn't have a specific design that he wanted or anything, so I proposed this, and he said that's awesome. It's just really
frameworks out there.
Basic.
Which ones do you like best?
Frameworks?
Yeah, well,
like these?
Yeah.
I don't use anything but Headway anymore. I'm not really. I'd be interested in looking to see if there's something else that comes out that's close to this, but nothing seems to come close, in my opinion.
There's the Dynamics that lays on top of the Genesis framework. Have you looked at that?
What is it called?
Dynamics.
I don't think so, no.
Isn't that what it's called? Anyone familiar with it? It's basically Headway for Genesis.
That would be cool, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Dynamic website builder, and it's Genesis.
Oh yeah, so I almost forgot to mention, of course, out of the box, Headway is responsive. I didn't do anything special to get this working.
Nice.
Yeah. You do have to go into the settings when you, like when I create or when you first open up the visual editor here, under setup, I've got grid, and I can change the column width and the gutter width, which will add together to make the grid width, that 940 pixels that it starts off with. And then I can also choose to go away from the 24 columns on the grid. Some people maybe want 12 or something, but I'm honestly not sure why they do that. I think the 24 makes the most sense. You don't want to use less than 12. 12 is like a happy number when it comes to grid because it's the number that has the most equal divisors into it. You know, if I need to have 3 blocks here, I couldn't do that if it was 10 or 10 columns on the grid. You know, with 12 I can do 3 equal ones, I can do 4 equal ones, I can do 2 equal ones. It's the most flexible. But that under grid I've got responsive grid, and then I can enable responsive grid. And it has responsive video resizing, which does most of the work. Sometimes I have to play with it, but so now we should be able to see some responsiveness on this site. Refresh.
Sweet.
There we go. Not too much work.
Do you have fine-grained control over media plays?
There is a little bit. I can like hide elements based off of what size that I'm looking at, but it's not what I would call fine-grained control. It's medium-grained control.
All right, we're already at 8:30. You use Chronomate too.
Yeah, if anybody wants to ask me more questions, you can email me at david@allstruct.com.
All right, so we are at 8:30. We kind of like ran over into networking time, but I think that was just like pretty darn cool to watch that kind of build. So I don't know, maybe a Headway Part 2 at some point in the future might be interesting to really dive in and see it more. So that ends for tonight. I mean, we've got some people around here, some of the anchors, so if you want to network and kind of talk to each other, some of us may go out and find some drinks somewhere afterwards. Welcome to join. Next month, we have the demo for the hosting is going to be Flywheel. Newer on the scene, I don't know much about them, and so I actually can't wait to see what they have to offer because they're kind of newer. So Flywheel will be the host that will be demoing. We're going to have a plug-in demo by Joe for WP iThemes Better Security, and then April is going to be doing a content session, and it's about planning your content using the editor. There's different plugins in WordPress that can help you actually organize and plan your content. So that's what she's going to be doing. And as I think most of you guys probably know, we announced it last time, we have 4 different Meetup satellite locations now. You can pretty much go and do WordPress every single week of the month now. We've got the first Tuesday of the month is the business of web. And that's not really WordPress. That's for people who make their business and make their living doing websites. So we talk about scoping projects, and we talk about things like that. Then the second Tuesday, of course, is here in Chandler. Third Tuesday is in Scottsdale. I'm sorry, second Thursday here. Third Thursday, Scottsdale. Fourth Thursday, Northwest Valley. The location is new. This coming month, it's going to be in Glendale.
Actually, I-17 and Happy Valley at the Elevate Coffee Shop.
I-17 and Happy Valley Elevates Coffee Shop. So, with that, enjoy, and thank you all for coming.
Yay.
Did David get it off? He did.
Okay, I gotta go.
All right, I need to take the dangerous. Whoa! Oh, can we stop this? The dangerous contraption of wires that are set up